So this is Social Studies H2a, that's the standard, and the element. And it basically says something about European partitioning. I don't know, but I'll put it into a question. It says, how did the European partitioning across the Middle East, after the breakup of the Ottoman Empire, lead to conflict in the Middle East, obviously? Well, this word right here is real important. Partitioning means to divide or to separate. This shaded area was the old, what we call the old Ottoman Empire, and before we've never heard of that. Most people have never heard of the Ottoman Empire, or at least if they have heard of it, they don't know what it is. The Ottoman Empire was basically a religious empire ruled by, you guessed it, an emperor, and it encompassed parts of Europe on the Baltic Peninsula. I think that's the Balkans. And then you have what is now Turkey and Iran and Iraq, part of Saudi Arabia, Syria, Israel, Egypt, just a lot of countries, modern day countries. So what happens is, after World War II, after World War I, the Ottoman Empire lost. And traditionally, when a country loses a war, they lose their territory, they lose their country. Their country becomes subsumed by the people that beat them. This is an old-fashioned way of thinking. And back in World War I, the European powers, these guys, and those guys, and the United Kingdom, they were all still thinking in that old-fashioned way. And they said, we never want these Ottomans to ever come back and threaten us again. So we're going to break their empire up and dissolve it. And what they did is they ended up separating these sections of the old Ottoman Empire into sections that we now know as countries. And each one of these countries now becomes, each one of those sections now becomes a modern-day country as we know it today. The problem with that was, when the Europeans partitioned the old Ottoman Empire, they did not consider ethnic groups, nor did they consider religious groups. And so once again, we saw this in Africa, when the Europeans divided up Africa. When the Europeans divide the map, they're doing it out of convenience for them, but they had no real consideration as to what was going to not produce conflict in the future. So when these countries, some of them were ruled over by the Europeans, and after or during the period from the end of World War I and after World War II, those countries became independent and to themselves, and they're left with those old borders that the Europeans set for them. That didn't work out very well for them, because you have different ethnic groups living right on top of each other that may or may not like each other, usually not. And you also have people that are very, very religious living right next to each other, and they disagree highly on who to worship and how to worship and when to worship. And so there's always this butting of a head in the Middle East, and I think, it's my opinion, there always will be. Even today, we find Tripoli ought to really kind of ring a bell for you. Benghazi, Cairo, Egypt, Tunis, Algeria. Those are places that are in the news today. And even though it's Africa, it's still considered part of the old Ottoman Empire. Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan. There's conflict all the time over there. And you can trace it back to when that Ottoman Empire dissolved and was divided and partitioned. It was partitioned in such a way that it had large groups of people that really disagree with one another, living in very, very close proximity to each other, and therefore there's always conflict over there. And I believe probably will continue to be. So, the easy answer is this. How did the question is, how did the European partitioning lead to conflict in the Middle East after the break of the Ottoman Empire? Your answer is this. Here's the answer for the Daily Double. Anybody watch Jeopardy? No? That's okay. All right. When the Europeans partitioned the old Ottoman Empire, they did not partition it according to ethnic or religious groups. They simply did it out of convenience, and the bringing together of different ethnic groups and different religious groups has led to conflict in the modern age in the Middle East. Thank you.